Greetings, brothers and sisters. I had another experience. My wife and I had another experience with seeing something odd in the sky. It started off with scrambling military jets, and so I'm going to do a quick narration. So I'll show the clips when we saw what might have been a Chinese weather balloon or might have been something else. Now, there's been all these downed objects. I also want to talk about the train thing a little bit. I don't know if there's anything else I have to cover here. But the clips I have to show you are kind of interesting. But this is the first, what you're seeing now is what I originally saw, we my wife saw, that the day that they shot these so-called spy balloon down from China. And since then, there's been all these other developments. China has said that they've found 10 objects in their airspace from America, all these things. So I'll cover all that. But I first want to say this. Like I said in my first video, I look up at the sky all the time. And when I heard this thing about Chinese spy balloon, I didn't care because I just don't care about stuff. I don't go down the rabbit hole. I don't have to figure things out. I don't, just things I have to make a decision about. Like I've seen so much, whatever it is, disinformation or not, or unprovable things and just all this speculation. I want to talk about the truth community. At the end of this thing, it's going to be a kind of a, for me, an epic video of all these things, right? But yesterday or 2 days ago, my wife and I went for a walk on the beach. I don't want to call it vacationing because I work every day and she's working as well, but we, take these trips or whatever. And we have a place we go at the ocean. And we went for a walk at sunset time with our dogs. And I looked up the sky and saw all these fighter jets that are scrambling, like a bunch of them. Like it was maybe a total of 15 different fighter jets. There's a military base near here. They're always guarding the coastline. It was a clear sky. And then we saw a couple objects, two of which disappeared. They were there for a little bit and they just disappeared. I caught some of it, I think, I haven't watched all rewatched the videos yet. But they're small objects that were up in the sky that, they weren't planes, they weren't, I don't know what they were, right? They weren't balloons. And one of them just, you can see it disappear, right when I'm filming. So we saw them come and go a couple of times. And so there was that. And I'll show you all that. And you could make of it what you will, right? Because I don't have an answer. It's too far away to see what it was, and I don't know. But it was interesting that all these military jets were scrambling. And then the next day, I got some footage of that. They filled the sky with chemtrails. Like, it's crazy. Like, there was a clear sky the night before. And the next day, they were, it was supposed to be cloudy that day, right? Because I'm paying attention to the weather because we're, going out for walks. It was supposed to be cloudy, but it was a clear day. And all the clouds came from chemtrails. There's oftentimes you see that where they predict an overcast day or a partly cloudy day. And it's really a clear day with chemtrails, right? And you can see it. I mean, you'll see all the zigzagging. So I don't know what's going on with that. But it was a clear night sky last night. I always look up at the stars when I walk the dogs around, 10, 11 o'clock at night before, so they don't urinate in the house, right? And I bring them outside wherever we are because the coyotes are small dogs and I just can't let them outside. They, whatever. So I go outside and I always look up at the sky. And I've been seeing things which, this started over like a year ago while we were, on vacation and then back home. I was looking up at the sky and I saw there was two red planetary objects. Like there was Mars and then another one that was red. And one of them was moving quite substantially. It was moving more than the other stars or whatever it was, right? And so I want to get into that because that's all I have to say about it. Really, is that there are two red objects, so only one of them can be Mars, right? Like I'm wondering why there are two red objects, and I don't have any video of that. It's hard to take it at night. It's just the pictures don't come out. Even with a whatever iPhone I have. But, I've been seeing weird stuff in the sky for a while. I always look up the stars, and just in general, and sometimes there's some movement, sometimes there's some things flashing. And there was one more thing. There was one object that might have been a planet, but it seemed to move at first and then stopped moving. And I'll talk about that. You'll see that in the footage. So, like, I don't know what this is. I don't really care. I was talking about UFOs, and somebody left a comment like 2 days ago saying like it was a joke. Oh, I thought you said you stopped drinking, which, drinking was never really a problem of mine. But it's a bad joke because if you're saying I'm hallucinating, then you should say something like I thought you said you stopped doing drugs or LSD or, whatever it is. Like, it's a goofy joke. But for me, it's a no-brainer that there is other life than on planet Earth. There's certainly spiritual life, etheric life, which I have some experience with, but there's all this evidence, and I don't care. Like, I'm not trying to convince anybody. It's not a big thing of mine. It's just something that I personally know to be true. And so I always look at it like that because they have been covering it up for a while. I'll get into that at the end of the video, though. Hopefully I'll remember to do that. All right, so let's go to the footage here first. It's a plane off in the distance in the lower right of the screen. Then there's all of these planes here. They're scrambling all these jets, it looks like. There's one in the distance over there. There's one down over there by the sunset there. Okay, you see that little tiny dot there? I'm going to show you what I originally uploaded this. I put the raw file into here. Let me see if I got this one here. Is it this one? Yeah, this is what it looked like. Nothing was visible. So I said, all right, I'll take the raw file and I'll use my ScreenFlow app and I'll use my cursor and I'll be able to, edit it and, talk about it there. And then it looked just like this. So I couldn't find a way to get the raw file to look as good as it is. So I had to use iMovie, turn it into something that, is visible now. I don't know what happened. Because of the format, all this stuff was lost. I mean, this is, how clear it is now, how much better it is here. Where you can even see that little dot down there. I can't use my cursor here. But this just drained me. Like, I can't even tell you. But here, I finally got it to work. Boom. Another one up top here. Some of them we can't see. There's another one in the distance over here. You can see this. So there's 7 or 8 planes that are being scrambled right now. Some of them are too far for me. There's a couple of crossing now up top. There's 2 of them that are crossing there. So, okay, so this is important. These 2 planes are going in opposite directions. As you can see, these are contrails, not chemtrails. These are military jets. And we saw maybe 15 to 20. They were all over the sky. It's hard to really count them. In one frame, I think you can see 6 or 7. Like I said, I've been editing this thing to make it clear. Or not editing it. I've been trying to find a way to get the raw file to show up on my Premiere Pro. It's been a total drag. This is what it looked like on Apple, but that other photo is what I showed you what it looked like when I imported it here. But these planes were going in opposite directions, and between them there was an object that showed up, and then it disappeared, and then another object appeared, and I'll show you all that as we go through it. But there was 2 distinct objects that weren't planes, and I'm not sure what they are. They are all over the place now. There's aircraft here with all that's going on. Talking here. So there's more jets here at sunset, and there was an object that was right there, and it's gone now. It was right between those 2 planes. There's an object that wasn't emitting any sort of a contrail. You see, these aren't chemtrails, these are contrails, these are military jets. There's a base spy here. And my wife and I, before I could get the camera out, I saw something that was shiny. My wife was like, maybe it's a planet. Like, no, it's too low. But it wasn't emitting any sort of a contrail. It was pretty big. It was,
I don't know what it was. It just disappeared. Oh, there it is again. You can see it right there. There's that dot. Just appeared again. It disappeared, and now it reappeared. And so I don't know what that is. I don't know if a helicopter could go that high. You see that that's disappeared altogether and then reappeared. This is really zoomed in here. So, and I don't, disappeared again.
So I'm going to show you that again. I've made it bigger. It's going to come up and down here. If I can. I made it bigger and I've slowed it down. And there it is. There's the object. It's sort of flashing there. So it's pulsating and flashing. And it looks like cloud cover. It seems white to sky, but it wasn't like that. That's just from the sun. And there it disappeared again, right? Here it is. And so I have no idea what this thing is. And then it seemed to reappear later, and then we thought, well, maybe that's a planet or a star. But this thing was pulsating, and it again, this was a blue sky with some sunset. The sunset was happening right underneath it, and then it just disappeared. And my wife and I both saw it disappear again. We saw it before that, it appeared and disappeared. And so then there was a second object that was different than this one, and that one, well, I'll show you that.
So, some weird boop going on out there. Boop. I mean, I don't know. Okay, so you can see it's sunset, and there's two planes over here. There's one up top. There's one there. See if I zoom it in. There's.
So you can see here, there's like 5 or 6, at least 5, maybe 6. I mean, I can't see it. It's not as big as when I watched it on Apple QuickTime. I could watch it full screen. Here it's just a small screen that I'm editing on. But you might be able to see this here. But there's at least 5 fighter jets that have been scrambled there. And in the entire sky, going around, and it was panoramic, there was probably about maybe anywhere between 15 to 20 planes that were visible to us at one time or another. Planes flying in and out of our visibility. It happened over like an hour period. So there was fighter jets and military aircraft everywhere.
4 planes over there. The object was about over here, and that disappeared completely. Like it never returned. We've been watching the sky. So we saw it once, and I got my camera out and it was gone. We saw it again. The planes were tracking it. And now they're over there. We're by the coast. We're on, we're close to we're right next to the ocean here. We're on vacation, and so it's just bizarre. Like we've seen 2 things. So there's a bunch of planes here. There's all military jets. They're scrambling. There's an object that this guy's flying up here. He's going, he's going really fast. But yeah, they're not leaving any sort of chemtrails, and they were right around that object. There was 4 planes right around that object. I don't know in terms of altitude, but there's, huh? Where? Oh yeah, there's a black dot there. That's effed up. I don't know what that is. I got that on there. No, it's way up there. I mean, it seems like it's on the same level as a plane. I don't know what that is. Oh, like it just flashed the light. It just. So what the? That's a. No, I mean, it's way up there. That plane's way up there. That's on like a level of a commercial plane. So there's another object I just picked up, and that's flashing lights. I don't think that's the same thing we saw before. But it's, the sun's going down, so there's not much visibility. I'm trying to hold this thing steady, but that's a good spot. I didn't even see it. lost it? No, here it is. I don't know if that's the same object. This thing looks a little bit different. And it's just hovering. I'm holding the camera pretty still. It's moving kind of idiosyncratically. I've got the camera still now, and that's not me moving.
Okay, so I've zoomed this in here, and again, it's something flying, but then it was hovering. There we go. Move that more to the center. There we go. There. It's hovering, and then it's just going to disappear. And there's going to be a flash over here. Maybe I should make it a little less. So you're going to see more in the center of the screen. There's going to be a flash after this disappears. So again, there's no cloud cover, and it's just sort of hovering. At first, it was moving to the right, and I can't use my cursor here. But coming up, it's going to disappear here somewhere, and there's going to be a flash over towards the center. There's going to be a little flash here. So the flash is going to happen on the left, in the far left. You see it right there. Boom. I'll show you. So I've slowed that down. The other object has disappeared. And you're going to see the flash. I've moved it more to the center. It's coming up in a second. I've slowed it down. So there's just a flash. This was over to the left of where the object originally was. Some distance away, but still within the frame. You'll see the flash coming up. It's going to come up here left of center, sort of in the center on the left. And it's going to happen right there. There was a little flash and it disappeared. So that was weird. Again, this isn't cloud cover. It looks white, but it's really just the sunset with the blue sky. So there's the object there. I still frame this, right? So that's when it flashed. It looked like the earlier object that disappeared. And then I'm going to bring in the other object here on the right. And so these were taken basically at the same time. The object on the right disappeared, and then the object on the left, this flash, did flash for a moment, and then that disappeared. So that's really weird, right? I mean, these are the same sky. And the sky looks different, but it's the same sky. I haven't, altered this either picture. These are just, I've made these bigger, but they're not, I haven't changed anything. And so, again, this was a blue sky. There was no, there was a sunset, but there's nothing else. So that was weird, right? So they had the object on the left that seemed to have disappeared and reappeared. And the object on the right, it, possibly could have been a helicopter, but it was so high up. I mean, I don't know what the altitude on some of those military helicopters were, but there was no noise. Like you would have, it was far away, so I don't know. But, and that disappeared. The helicopters don't disappear. Again, no cloud cover, no reason for it to disappear. That was flashing a light. It certainly wasn't a plane because it was moving to the right for a bit and then it just hovered and disappeared. And there's military jets flying around these two objects, right? And I can't tell, how close they are. I mean, it's all perspective, right? So there's that. Let's move on to the next clip here.
That's the object's moving to the left. Lost it. It's gone. So yeah, I don't know what that's going on here. There's more of the planes there. So I gotta take my sunglasses off because I can't see as well. Did it disappear again? There it is, I got it. So this object came back. This is in a totally different part of the sky. This one's more stable. No, I think it's moving too because my camera, I'm holding the phone dead still right now.
So this is a long clip, but we kind of felt like this was the first planet or star that emerged. And so it was different. It was in another part of the sky than the other two objects. It looked a little bit like the first object because they're both round. It seemed to be moving towards us at first, so that's where I was confused. But like I can't see it you can't see it moving other than any movement you see could either be the object moving or my hands not holding the camera, the phone steady. So I'm just going to go to the end of this. So I just went on. I got 6 minutes of footage of this thing. And like I said, it seemed to be a star or a planet. Could be something else, but there's, I'm leaning towards it just being a planet or something. And then stars started to emerge. But then I'll show you this in a moment here. This is towards the end of capturing this thing. But then I'm going to segue into the, there was another object. It wasn't a plane. It was moving at first, and it's pulsating. You can see that here. Okay, so over here you see there's some sort of a plane that's flashing, and then one of those military jets. And there's the object there. There's a couple more military jets are there underneath it. We thought it moved for a little bit, but we really can't tell if it's just the wind's blowing in our face. And then over here, this thing's moving and flashing, but that could be a plane. You know, it's just a lot of activity. I mean, this thing, I don't know what that is. It's flashing, pulsating. Seems kind of standing still, but it was definitely moving when we first looked at it. Do you think it's moving now? Can you see? Yeah, it was moving when we first looked at it. It was like, I thought it was a plane. It was moving across the sky. These are some stars that are starting to emerge. That one's flashing. It's pulsating. That was moving when we first saw it. Okay, so over the land, when I started this portion of the clip, see if I can make this one bigger. This one was one that was over the ocean. You can see it's pulsating. It's flashing. You know, stars or planets shouldn't pulsate. They shouldn't flash. And this one's doing that. Like, why would they flash when they're just reflecting or they're emitting light from, you know, millions of miles away? So I don't know what's up with this one. You know, there's all these different objects. So, you know, there's objects that are pulsating. That's going to move out of the way there. But it's pulsating. There's objects that are moving and then standing still. And then there's all these military jets. All right, so I want to do a quick narration and move on to other parts of the video. Other things, there's stuff to do with the heart stuff and cardiac arrest I want to get to, as well as some other things. But here are the chemtrails. So the very next day, this was yesterday, the sky was filled with chemtrails, like unbelievably so. So this is the next day. There's an active trail there. There's all the chemtrails that have been laying down. So maybe something's going on tonight. They don't want us to see it. Last night was a clear sky. Today would be a clear sky. There's another trail coming up over there. Multiple planes. See, they're laying more fresh chemtrails here. This is over the ocean. And then just everywhere. There's a plane there. This would be an otherwise blue sky here. So I didn't take any more video of it, but it was just, the whole sky was, I've never seen so many chemtrails. There was multiple planes up. There was planes up all day. And there was that other plane I showed you briefly. I don't know what that was. And you could hear the planes, which was interesting because when the other night we didn't hear anything. We didn't hear any kind of planes or whatever it is. And like I said, I'm not sure if I said it here, but there was some shooting. There was no guns allowed in this area. And so there was either fireworks, which I don't know why there would be, because it wasn't, you know, it was the day before Valentine's Day, Tines. And, you know, there was military bases around, but we heard some, I don't know, some sort of explosions that sounded like firing of something, right? So that all happened. And then I just want to do this one narrative here. So just a few more, you know, things to say about this. It was very odd. Like, I've never seen this many military jets scrambled. You know, it was just after, it was 2 days after, a day after, they shot down a fourth object. You know, I was leaning more towards a false flag type of thing, where they're either trying to provoke war with China. There was some guy on Tucker Carlson somebody sent me, and he said what I've been saying for years. You know, we're the evil empire, and we're the ones who are provoking wars. You know, so it was just, I'm not going to show you the clip because he's just reiterating what I and other people have been saying for years in the truth community. And so it seems like they're trying to provoke a war with China, maybe. They're certainly trying to provoke a war with Russia. I was leaning towards it being fake. Like, that's how I kind of felt about it. But then we saw the balloon, too, what they were calling the balloon, and it was far away from the coast. We weren't at the coast. And so, I don't know what that was about. But that was a weird thing. And I don't like to be in the story. It's a show. I don't want to be in the show, right? Like, I like observing the show and reporting on the show. But I don't like seeing things. I don't dislike it, but it's not, what I do here. But it's interesting. I looked up in the sky and saw what they were calling the first spy balloon. And then another night, I was looking up in the sky. It's something I do all the time, right? There's these two planets, I should say, that about a year ago, we were where we were now. And I looked up the sky. I take the dogs out and have to walk them at night because coyotes. So I usually take them out around 10:30. And I like looking up at the stars. And, something I've done forever since I was a little kid. And I saw that there was one planet that was red, one star that was red, which I assumed was Mars. And then I saw a second red planet. And that one of them moved significantly. And I observed it over a couple of nights, and then we returned home, and I saw it there as well. More trees in our yard area. But I was seeing it, right? And I'm like, why are there two red planets? And one of them seems to move a lot more, slowly, but it changes its location in the sky. And I observed it for a bit. So there's been strange things that, I can't explain. I don't have an explanation for them, but they seem a little bit odd. And then we go outside, and, like I said, I'm always looking up at the sky, and it was sunset, so we were going out to see sunset. And they've scrambled all these military jets, never seen something like that before. Maybe 15 or 20 of them. And there's multiple unidentified objects, at least to me, in terms of, one of them might have been a planet, but the rest of them were, pulsating and emitting light, and, they are part of this whole thing. This is protected airspace, so there's no commercial jets that fly over. I mean, there's all these things, a military base and all this stuff. And so, very odd, right? Like, I don't know what it is, but it's not normal. And now, I've observed two things, which I don't think is accidental, because the balloon thing, I mean, I look up in the sky during the day, but not as much as I do at night. And for me to look up and say, hey, there's that Chinese balloon they're talking about, right? Or whatever it was. And then, have some, they just always lie, the government and the media. And, for them to have all these things so-called invading our airspace. And at first I thought it was like a false flaggy type of thing. But now I'm thinking maybe there's something real going on. And maybe it has nothing to do with another country. This could be extraterrestrial stuff. And maybe they know people are going to look up and see stuff, so they have to explain it. But there was, two very suspicious objects the other night, three actually, that I would call, weird and not explainable. But anyways, let's move on to the next bit of stuff here. So there's one more thing here. So today, this is 2 days after the majority of stuff I showed you, and 1 day after the chemtrails yesterday. My wife and I just went on a walk, and we saw chemtrails today, and then this. Chemtrails and military helicopters. This isn't something unusual to see around a military base, but there's been a lot of military activity, so whatever that means. All right, let's move on to our other stuff here. Okay, so just a few more things about the balloons. I want to talk a little bit about more about this at the end in a narrative. I want to get into some flat Earth comment I got. Talk about that a little bit, and then I want to talk about I don't know, something else. Hopefully I remember. And so this says U.S. flew more than 10 high altitude balloons over our airspace, China. This is what this guy's saying. So they're saying that this happens both ways, right? And if it does, and it's been acknowledged, and America's doing this, and I mean, there's just so much lies and deception. Why is the White House claiming Chinese spy balloons violated U.S. airspace during Trump's presidency? NORAD admits that it had to enhance its radar to be able to detect and track down slow-moving, high-altitude objects. How did it retroactively enhance its radar? So this is from Reuters. So the U.S. military has been adjusting its radar to find flying objects, including balloons that are smaller, slower, and differently shaped than enemy aircraft, and missiles that have long preoccupied the Pentagon. Gavin Newsom's wife's push for state funding that benefits her own nonprofit. Gavin Newsom's awesome.
Basically, what they're telling us is you are an enemy of the state if you dare to oppose or even question the president, his administration, or his policies. Shut up, step back, fall in line, or we're coming after you. So the question I ask myself, what are they so afraid of? They're afraid of us. I've got to believe that Thomas Jefferson was thinking about these cowardly, fearful leaders when they wrote in the Declaration of Independence that governments are instituted among men.
Was that before or after Thomas Jefferson got done R-ing his 15-year-old slave girl that he impregnated with 3 children? Is it before or after that? Because, he's big into freedom, but he was also big into R-ing his slave girl, and being considered a hero and, some kind of great man who was great about freedom. I mean, somebody posted this on Facebook thinking, saying how great Tulsi Gabbard is. But don't quote Thomas Jefferson, because not only did he own slaves, he R-ed slaves, and then there were 3 kids that Sally Hemings had that he fathered that ended up being his slaves. So his children ended up being his actual slaves, right? And you can say, well, that was the time. Sure. But the guy wasn't an expert on freedom, right? Or human rights.
No exhaust, no diesel smell. The bus has Wi-Fi and even USB outlets next to every seat. I mean, come on, imagine. You can charge your phone on your way home from work. That's good stuff.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Kamala knows about good stuff. She's been smoking the good stuff. Russia ready to help India with its tanks. Moscow can share its Armada tracked platform with Delhi, a senior official said. So they're lining up allies, right? Russia has Iran. Russia and China might come together. India, is leaning more towards Russia than they are towards America. So, I mean, this is the framework of World War III. So I saw this movie with my wife. Well, some of it. It was horrible. Called White Noise. Very pretentious. Adam Driver makes everything worse. I don't remember one movie where I went, well, I'm glad Adam Driver was in that, right? I've seen a number of his crappy movies. There was a movie called Lucky Logan where it was some Southern guys. One of the old James Bonds, I think, was in it, whatever it was. It was kind of funny. I kind of remember it being good. I'm not sure about it. And I was trying to think about all the Adam Driver movies. I mean, he made already horrible the last 3 in the trilogy, the last trilogy of Star Wars. I mean, he was just an abomination in that. But he's very pretentious and he kind of sucks. So the movie was one of those kind of weird, quirky movies. I can't remember all the movies. There's a guy who makes these type of movies. Bill Murray's in a lot of them. There's one called the Darjeeling Express or something that's set in India, and there's another one with maybe Boy Scouts in it, and there's one this Rabbit movie, Jojo Rabbit's kind of like that, where it's quirky, obscure type of Edward Scissorhands kind of Johnny Depp type of movie that's just off, but the volume, the audio was atrocious. It sounded like background noise, and it was hard to watch. And so my wife and I, my wife is interested in seeing it because she's very interested in this whole thing that's happened with the train wreckage and New Palestine, Ohio. So we fast forwarded to the part when he's given a speech about Hitler. At the same time, this truck is, a truck filled with flammable material is being sandwiched in between the various cars of a train, and it explodes, and the toxic chemicals inside form a monstrous cloud, and eventually the town has to be evacuated. The dad, Adam Driver, is denying. His son is doing all the research. His son is sort of like the truther of the family. And the son is, this is all spoiler alert, but the movie sucks, so And so the son is saying they have to evacuate. And his dad's saying, well, do we have, they're just completely like being goofy about it, right? Like his dad, like, well, maybe, does it say evacuate immediately, or is it a suggestion? Is it an order? And, he said, no, it's a toxic cloud going, And the son is saying that one of the side effects is heart palpitations, which of course now is happening with, whatever, possibly the vax and things like this. And so somebody starts exhibiting some of the son says is outdated symptoms, because they had these original symptoms and then they've upgraded them. And so the family goes on sort of they're caught in a traffic jam trying to leave. The dad gets exposed possibly to some of the gas, and he's freaking out for the rest of the movie. There are some more things, I can't remember it all. There were a couple like kind of humorous jokes, but the dialogue and the audio, it's just an atrocious movie. Like a movie that, they gave up on and slapped it together because whatever it was, right? Like they didn't do a good job editing, and it's just a poorly crafted movie. But as they return home, the wife is having memory loss. And again, we fast forwarded through some of that stuff. But she ends up taking experimental drugs, and her husband catches her. And she explains to him that she has a fear of death, which he also has. And she says that there was an advertisement for a trial for these drugs. And it's a trial medication that has severe side effects, including being disconnected from your body in some way, like your consciousness being disconnected, and severe memory loss. And then she said they didn't want to let her try to take the drugs, so she slept with a guy. She was having sex with a guy for like 3 months wearing a ski mask. She said because of her shame, she put on a ski mask and, prostituted herself for this medication that ended up not working and causing her memory loss and other symptoms that I can't remember them all, but they sounded sort of vaxy, right? So there was these things that were related to the vax, and then the Adam Driver character goes to kill the guy who's running the studies that was sleeping with his wife, and he goes to shoot the guy, shoots him, and the guy's taking these pills, but the pills have no effect. Like the drug doesn't work, but it causes severe side effects. But he's taking the pills anyway. And then he shoots the guy twice with a small caliber pistol, and the guy survives, and he puts the gun in the guy's hand so he can pretend the guy committed suicide. But the guy wakes up and shoots Adam Driver and his wife, who showed up, because she says men are violent and are murderous, and that she was worried that he was going to go murder the guy. And they put him in a hospital, and they lie to him and tell him that he shot himself and them because he has memory loss from this artificial drug, this drug that doesn't work, and it's given to you because you're scared of death, which has happened with the vax. So all that was a little bit interesting. There's some more stuff I forget. It's just such a hard movie to get through, right? Just a poorly made, just atrocious movie. But it's the whole gas cloud and everything that's happening in New Palestine. The movie was filmed. Okay, I got a couple of comments to get to. This image, hopefully still have this image. I should check before I get further into this thing here. Yeah, this is a crude image, and I'll get to its meaning in just a moment. So I want to talk about a flat earth comment I got. But there was another comment I want to discuss first. This was, and I'm going to tie this into the whole, whatever it was, the train thing and the whole stuff to do with the airspace. And so these are two comments I got consecutively. And the first one, and neither one of these comments I consider bad. One is better than the other one. And so the first one, the person writes, Paul, I have no idea. Paul, I have an idea for a short, which is good. I want people to do this. I don't remember the exact location or word, so I will paraphrase. You said the left rules with hate and the right rules with fear. Hopefully it's not far, but it is a profound bit that I believe will translate perfectly to a short. Well, I can re-say that, so it isn't, horrible, right? This person, there's a good idea from this person. So I'll just put that in another video at some point, or just make a short with that, so that's okay. I can do that, right? But the next person went above and beyond. Hey, Paul, in your video about Jenna Marbles quit YouTube, and I didn't remember that video until the person mentioned it. And then I barely remembered it. That I believe you privatized due to YouTube rules. There was a section of the video where you describe what's wrong with people, specifically millennials and younger, and the victim consciousness going on today. If I remember it correctly, it was around 10 minutes and 20-second timestamp, and the person was pretty accurate. It was right around there. But I could be wrong. Anyways, I hate that I never recorded this and have always thought what you said would be perfect for a YouTube short or TikTok type video. Check it out. I would love to see it in a short. Love you. Thanks. It turns out that was everything the person said and was very helpful. So I'm just, it's now a short on my channel called It's Okay to Be Broken. I edited out Jenny Marbles because, it wasn't about her. She was, maybe it was a little bit, I don't know. She quit YouTube over being harassed. I can't remember the specifics of the video. But I was talking more in general about this generation and making brokenness okay. And so, I wanted to point those things out. I'll try to remember to do that second one or the first one because I think that's worth, sometimes I say things that are quotable, either funny things or maybe even profound things. And if you remember where those things are, or you point them out, because sometimes, more often than not, I won't notice it personally. But if you think something's worth a short, go ahead and let me know. And if you can timestamp it, it's all the better. Because I don't remember where it is. So now to the flat earth thing, right? Somebody left a comment, and I haven't had a comment like this in a while from flat earthers because they're, which is a good thing. And I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But this guy said, Paul, I dare you to watch videos. And again, I don't have the exact quote because unfortunately I didn't screenshot it. I wish I had. But I kind of remember it almost verbatim. And the person said, Paul, I dare you to watch videos. And he listed some video from Eric Dubai or whatever that guy's name is. And some other guy I'd never heard of. I dare you to watch these videos. Bring your common sense. I used to make jokes about I double Dutch dare you, right? From the double Dutch jumping rope stuff. I double Dutch dare you. I used to say that all the time. I don't respond to dares because I'm not 12, right? But this person even saying that misunderstands the whole thing about flat earth, right? And there's two things here. And I want to say, I don't care if you believe the earth is flat or not. Like there was a point in time when I made truther videos, I made videos here, I used to care about what other people believed. I used to, when somebody would come to me with a point of view and whatever it was, and I thought it was wrong, I thought it was my duty to point it out. And now I don't, I don't do that. Like I'll mock people in comments. But for the most part, I just don't care what other people believe because the more I, do this, the less I believe I know and the less I believe everybody else knows. I think everyone's just kind of flying blind in a sea full of lies and deception and, all of it. And that's part of what, that's even part of this idea of the earth being flat, right? And, I did watch these videos. I mean, not the two that he listed. I may or may have not watched these videos. But when I first found out about the flat earth, I was at the ocean, right? And I've been at the ocean a number of times when flat earth came up. So the first time I heard about flat earth, I was in Sri Lanka with my kids renewing our visas when we were, going back and forth to India, right? We had to renew our visas in Sri Lanka, which is a small island, very much like Cuba. It's like Cuba is to America. It's 50 miles off the southeast coast of India. And so I was able to use the ocean and to do some testing because the flat earth thing was a new thing at that time, right? And so I went with the old model the first time I understood or what I heard about flat earth, and I presented it to flat earthers who were now becoming, they were just becoming something. And they said, no, we have a new model, right? The old model of the earth spinning around the sun, there was this sort of original flat earth model. But now they said they had a new model, and the guy said, he said that the sun and the earth, the sun and the moon are spinning above the flat earth. This is the idea of firmament and all these things that are in the Bible. And I said, well, what are they spinning around? And, they said that there's no gravity as well, that gravity is not a real thing. And so I said, what are they spinning around? He said, an unknown celestial object. And I'm like, well, you don't have a theory, right? And again, I don't care if you believe it. I'm not trying to convince flat earthers are wrong. None of that. Like, none of this stuff matters to me. But, I keep on getting comments like this, and I want to explain this, that there's two problems with it. There's a problem with the theory and the model. But the worst problem is the presentation where they come in strong and they just announce it's flat and all these things, right? And so I've said this over and over again. I've watched these flat earth videos. Well, the first part is this. When I've asked personal flat earthers to explain their model to me, how the flat earth model works, they always refer me to a video of somebody else's opinion. And I'm like, well, you don't even understand your own model, right? I'm like, you don't understand how this thing works, and yet you're announcing it like it's reality, right? And the videos oftentimes don't, they don't give some factual model. It's all speculative, and the model doesn't work for a variety of reasons, which I've stated, and I'm not going to restate them here. But the flat earth model doesn't work. And most of the videos are about how the earth isn't round. It's disproving the round earth model, right? It's not about selling the flat earth model. It's saying the round earth model doesn't work. And that might be true. Like, I don't know if that's true or not. But let's say these videos definitively prove, and I haven't seen one that does, the round earth model is false, right? That doesn't mean the earth is flat. And that's the other problem here. Because people are attached to their biblical view of things. And the Bible, the Old Testament, is a horrible book that is, it blasphemes God and paints God as an egotistical narcissist, violent and sociopathic. I mean, if you really read the Old Testament, that's how God comes off. And many of these people who hate Jewish people, I mean, many of the flat earthers hate Jewish people. A lot of the flat earthers graduated into being cubies, which I'll get into also in a moment. But they don't like Jewish people, and yet, the Old Testament is the Jewish Bible. And so there's all these contradictions. The firmament is a joke, and the whole model is a joke, right? It doesn't work. But let's say you could disprove that the earth isn't round, then there would be other ways of interpreting it, like it's a simulation. And this is illusion. This is Maya. There's a Sanskrit word, Maya, that is about how the earth is Maya, is illusion. That the earth itself is a deception. Our three-dimensional bodies are a deception. And what's real, our soul, is something much more refined, and our bodies are a grosser form of our soul's manifestation in an illusionary video game that's like some sort of monster simulation that we call planet Earth. And so that's a much better analysis than the flat Earth model, right? And the one thing I wanted to point out is, I observed this, and I observed this a lot since then, and that is when the sun sets, especially when it sets on the other side of the ocean. I had a western sunset in Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka, we had a west-facing beach like you would in the Pacific Ocean. And you could see it in the sun rising, and I did sun gazing, and the sun moves. Like, the sun doesn't come up on the same spot every day, which again blows up this model of celestial object, the Earth and Moon spinning around a flat Earth, and because of perspective, it goes out of view. It doesn't work because the time zones and all these things. But I don't, that's whatever it is, right? Again, I'm not trying to convince anybody. But in terms of this picture, I just wanted to say this. In terms of this picture, what you can observe is the sun sets, and this is, again, the sun setting in the west, and that's me standing on the beach. And after the sun has completely disappeared over the ocean, you can see it disappearing on the other side of the ocean. There'll be clouds that are still able to see. If you were in the cloud, you'd be able to see the sun, right? And the sun is hitting the bottom of the cloud, even though the cloud, we all know the clouds are below the sun. There's no model out there where the clouds would be above the sun. And yet the sun is hitting the clouds underneath the clouds, right? The sun is hitting the clouds, and it can bounce back and reflect off the clouds, and you can still see the sun, some of the light hitting the ocean or whatever it is, right? It's amazing that that's the way this is going. The Earth the sun has disappeared, and it's not hitting the ocean. It's not hitting, you can't see the sun, and maybe for about a half an hour to 40 minutes, the clouds, this is where you get sunsets from, are being lit up by the sun, right? Even though the sun is out of view, and it's because of the whole idea of the Earth rotating here. That's that model works in this circumstance, right? But again, this isn't really important because people want to believe whatever they want to believe is great, especially now when we're entered the depopulation phase, right? If people want to believe that the vaccine is good for them and the rest of us have doubts about it, we'll see how it all works out, right? People are betting on their beliefs right now, and that's fine. And everyone can, none of it matters because the system's collapsing. Like I said, I don't care. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. But the bigger problem when this person said, bring your common sense, right? Because they're trying to convince me. They want to recruit me into the flat earth world. And what you don't know, and this also, this morphed into the QB movement, there's a point where your brand has been wrecked. And no matter, how right you are or how right you think you are and what kind of dissertation you can give and, the things that you can say to people, you ain't convincing them of boop, right? Boop. You just aren't. This person saying, bring your common sense, you're not getting it, right? The flat earth thing is done just like the QB thing is done. There's no convincing people because you've been branded in a certain way, and maybe you weren't the problem, but flat earthers behaved horribly. They were argumentative. They were calling everybody a shill. They were aggressive. They were bombarding people with comments, and they harassed people. And, it's flat, all these, these bumper sticker ways of talking. And then that transformed into the QB movement where they did the same thing. And not only did, you piss off all the normies and all the sheeple, and now you're used as a joke, like people say, when you talk about being like a truther, they say, oh, you a flat earther, or you believe in that guy Q, or whatever it is, right? It's used, your movements are used to mock other people in the truth community. But other people in the truth community can't stand you because of the way you behaved, right? Because you were so aggressive, and it was like the end of the world is happening if we didn't agree with you. And that we all had to be shills because we didn't agree with you. And because of those behaviors, it wrecked your movement. Like your movement's done. You can still meet and have your own little groups of people. You can meet in little private areas, or have your private discussions with your friends who are QBs or flat earthers, and that's fine. I don't care. Great, that's your community. Then great. Great for you. I don't have a problem with it. But everyone else is like, we're not about it. You're not going to convince anybody because of the way it all played out, right? And it was the behaviors that were the problem more than anything else. Going after people aggressively and, being opposite of what I'm saying here. You cared about what other people, you were offended about what other people believed and was trying to control them. And there was a certain level of desperation. It started with the flat earthers, but it was much worse with the QBs. That just, it bummed everybody out. It was so difficult to deal with. And the other thing is tying it into the Bible, and especially the Old Testament. And, you know, people who are over the Bible or who are not Christian or who have left Christianity, you know, and I talked about this with Christians as well, you know, stop saying John 3:16 like the rest of us agree with that. We don't. We don't agree that Jesus is the only Son of God, right? Everybody's a child of God. I don't agree with it. And so stop using it like it's, you know, the Bible is some authority. It's an authority for you. It's not an authority for me. And, you know, this is the same kind of boop that you get bummed out with liberals and their science and the scientists being the authority and them telling you what's good for you or not, or, you know, all this stuff. I mean, there'll be a blurb underneath this video talking about chemtrails, even though, you know, you can see from that video, I mean, that I showed you, they're all over the place, right? You know, all this gaslighting, all this stuff, and all, you know, trying to force your reality on other people. The behavior's got to go. It doesn't work. And what do you really care other people believe? You know, I'm happy a lot of these people are taking the vax. You know, I'm glad that, you know, Sharon Stone and her, you know, Hollywood buddies. I mean, good, take it. Take 10 of them. You know, keep on taking them, right? Get a booster every week until you end up with the wrong batch. Like, I don't care, right? You know, that's your choice. That's your choice. And, you know, go make it. I'm happy that you make it. You know, this is a time of people, you know, this is a dying off period. We're entering into a phase of, you know, the more people dying than being born. Like, we're entering a phase of decline population. And you just have to recognize, you know, what are you doing? Like, what difference does it make if everyone believes the earth is flat? Like, it's not going to stop you know, like the apocalypse, everything's going to happen. Like, you know, there's nothing that I can convince anybody of that's going to change the course of events, right? I mean, this happened to me personally. You know, the stuff to do with Saj Marg and the heartfulness aspect of it and the current master of the system. Those of you who have listened to my Journey series, the guy, you know, ran scams, and he just, you know, imploded the system. And he wrecked it. He wrecked the heartfulness brand, especially to people in the truth community. I mean, there's people who are benefiting from Saj Marg doing the transmission and cleaning, who I've talked about here, and they've done it because they've heard about it on my channel, and they love the system, and they're struggling like I am because he wrecked it, right? And so even though, you know, I, with all my heart, believe that the transmission and cleaning given in this system are the future and can help people and transform humanity, they're a legitimate solution. You know, I've left the heartfulness thing. I still do Saj Marg. I still do the meditation, you know, with the old stuff. But the stuff with Dodgy and, you know, this guy Dodgy, Kamlesh, the president of the system, I can't talk about it anymore because it's wrecked. It's corrupt, right? I certainly can't recommend it because the guy is like completely crapped out and he's destroyed the brand of the system. And I've accepted, even though I love it so much and it's been so good for me, I can't talk about it because they've wrecked it. He's wrecked it, right? And what do I say? You know, I've just talking about this in my latest Journey series video. What do I say to people? Well, the current master of the system is corrupt and kind of a, you know, criminal mentality, and the people running the organization suck, but, you know, the other stuff's good, right? Like, you know, he's kind of turning it into I mean, you know, what do I say about it, right? Because I recognize the brand has been wrecked. There's no way to talk about something, right? And it hasn't been wrecked because other people lied about it. It's been wrecked because of the behavior of people in control and who have power over the organization. The same thing happened with the QBs and the flat earthers and the science. You know, science has been wrecked. The media, like, we don't trust anybody more. You know, there's so much disinformation. I was saying this to my wife about the thing with the train. The right wing has so wrecked the truth community, right-wing truthers who go out there and just lie and put up disinformation and don't properly fact-check things and put up things that isn't true. And they're so obsessed with the Chicken Little model, you know, Alex Jones, the sky is falling, Chicken Little model, that they don't, you know, they're into fear porn. And it wrecks everything. It's wrecked everything for all of us, right? Because it doesn't work. You know, Alex Jones and the fear porn Chicken Little people. Because they, you know, they try to exaggerate everything and they say things are going to happen when they're not, and they just spread fear and, you know, And so you can't get any appropriate information out there. You either have to be an expert about everything yourself, or you have to just, just take your best guess, because you're looking for truth in a haystack full of, a needle of truth in a haystack full of lies. I got to wrap this up because I got to go make dinner, and this video just really sucked me dry today. It was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be because of the poor quality of the transfer of the video. It took me a while to... Anyways. But, this is the problem with the right-wing element of the truth community. Like, you have to shed your right-wing religious beliefs because they're not working, right? If they worked, America would be better than it is, right? When you were in power, when you're, when the Make America Great Again people were in power. I'm talking about for years before Trump, during the Reagan years and all the years before that, the Conservative Party, they did things to piss people off, and they forced their belief systems on people, and now that's created the liberal movement, the angry liberal movement that's caused all these problems, right? And so don't think like, you guys were great before the liberals took over. You weren't, right? The right wing wasn't great. It was horrible. It did horrible things to people all the way back to the slave days and the conquering and conquest of America. The abuse of people, like, the Christian right, English, Anglo-Saxon people did a lot of bad stuff. And so that pissed people off, and now that's coming back around, and you don't like it, but, these people finally have gotten out from under the boot of the Queen and the people that followed her, the people that followed the British colonialist model. And now there's this liberal movement that's insane that you've created because you weren't fair, and and your ancestors created, and this model created, right? And so the right wing has a lot of things to answer for. The left wing is a product of the right wing power, right? The left wing woke consciousness, which sucks so bad, came out of the right wing dysfunctional behavior. And so, you have to own that stuff and realize that you have to evolve past it, right? All of it. Anyways, only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.